Hey everyone, Jexie here. Welcome back to another video. This is going to be another reaction time series with Jexie where we are going to explore the idea of maintenance medications and recovery. So I need to do a little bit of a disclaimer for this video. I had originally set out to do a very non-biased, both side approach to the topic of maintenance medication and recovery. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What are the pros? What are the cons? And what I found after doing a bunch of research was that it's not really as a pro-con issue as I thought. And so I think that instead of this being a this side or that type of video, I'm just going to share the information that I found and then let you guys make the decisions and come to your own conclusions. So when I talk about maintenance medications, what do I mean? So there's a few main ones. Methadone is one, and it's the one that's been around the longest. Bupropion, which is better known as Suboxone, which has been around for a decent amount of time. There's studies out there on it. And the third big one is naloxone. One of the brand names that you hear a lot about that is Vivitrol. So those are the three that I'm really talking about. As of recent, there's a lot more other types out there, but they all kind of fall into the same category, either a full antagonist, a partial antagonist, or a blocker. So I figured by covering those three types, we are kind of incorporating all the different maintenance medications that are out there, and we can kind of go from there. So what is a maintenance medication? So a maintenance medication are medications that addicts take that cause them to not want to use. Sometimes it is because those medications occupy the same receptors. Sometimes it's because they block certain hormones from getting to your brain. I know I totally used the wrong word there. But so they all work slightly differently, but the idea is that an addict would take these medications to prevent them from relapsing. Now, what's the argument about that? I mean, we see a lot of people take medications for a variety of mental health issues, so why are these medications so controversial? Well, the first is that a lot of people believe that when you're taking some sort of maintenance medication, it's essentially switching one drug for another. So let's say an opiate addict goes on methadone or Suboxone. They're saying, well, wait a second, aren't you still high? You're just taking a medication that's in your system longer. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to address this topic, is because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I feel like with a lot of the topics I want to discuss on this channel, having really good information is how we help each other in recovery. So I read a whole lot of research articles. I'm going to link everything down below. Again, as in my last video, I'm not going to read the entire articles. They're pages and pages long, and anybody who's ever read like a peer-reviewed research study knows that they are very wordy and hard to understand. So what I did was I picked out a lot of quotes and a lot of statements from these articles that I will probably post here. But again, if you're interested in reading the full article, check it out below, because I think that there's nothing wrong with being more informed. So just so you're better able to find the articles that I'm talking about, I am going to tell you what I'm pulling from. So the first one I'm going to talk about is called Maintenance Medication for Opioid Addiction, the Foundation of Recovery. It was published in July of 2012, so it is on the older side, but I found that the information that is there is still accurate. There are newer studies and newer information that's out there, but the information in this particular article doesn't seem to have been replaced in more recent studies. So this is found on a .gov site, again, which I will link below. It'll be real easy to find. And one of the most interesting things that I had found on this article, and it is a statistic I heard before, so I was really glad to find it in something that was peer-reviewed, is it says that with only psychosocial-based support, an addict has an 80% chance of returning to active addiction within the first 2 years. Take that in. With only psychosocial support, that's group support. Those are like your 12-step programs and other things like that, non-medication. that a person has an 80% chance of returning to active addiction within the first 2 years. That's insane. Those are statistics are awful. Now, I've heard that many, many times before, but I think that oftentimes we forget how deadly addiction really is and how hard recovery really is. That's why I get so excited when I hear people share about how they have 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Like, let's be real. Those are huge, huge milestones. If your chance of relapse in the first 2 years is 80%, then we need to celebrate every day that somebody gets clean. So with the statistics being what they are, it makes the idea of anything that can help those statistics be more successful be worth exploring. Does everybody need medication for things? I don't think so. But perhaps there are reasons. So I read further into this article, and I'm going to give you some information that I quoted from this article. Again, it's linked down below. So it says, results indicate that maintenance medication provides the best opportunity for patients to achieve recovery from opiate addiction. It also says that extensive literature and systematic reviews show that maintenance treatment with either methadone or buprenorphine is associated with retention in treatment, reduction in illicit opiate use, decreased craving, and improved social function. So essentially what they're saying is that those people who take either methadone or buprenorphine, which again is Suboxone, Suboxone is what it's most well known for. There's other brands, are more likely to recover in a way than if they're not taking those medications. It also says, and this is where I found things very interesting and where I think the argument for maintenance medication really comes in, is it says long-term approaches to the treatment of opioid addiction are required because of persistent alterations in dopaminergic, opioidergic, and stress-responsive pathways. So in other words, when you are actively using opiates, is changing the chemistry and the pathways in your brain. So if we use opiates for a long period of time, we do brain damage. And what this article describes is that some of these maintenance medications actually help improve brain function while you're getting the psychosocial support that you may need. So we know then that if just psychosocial support is not always like, look, I am going to give the pros of just psychosocial support at the end of this, so don't jump down to the comments saying 12-step programs work completely and all the time. Don't worry, I'm going to get to those sides of the argument. I just want to explain the medication aspect first based on the peer-reviewed journal articles that I have found, because I think it's important before we have the discussions on what's right or wrong, we're all informed. So going to further down, this same article kind of goes through each of the 3 categories of medications that I spoke about at the beginning. So the first being methadone. What they found with methadone, because it's been around for the longest, there's a ton of studies out on it. And what they found is that a patient can remain stable at the same dose for a long period of time, and they're not having to jump up doses like you would if you were using opiates to stay high. You can stay on at one medication dose for a long period of time, and they also felt that it helps reduce stress hormones and other parts of the brain that can lead to relapse. Buprenorphine or Suboxone is the next medication they talk about, and they did a study, and what they found was that when they did a study of 2 groups, one taking Suboxone or buprenorphine, sorry, I always say that wrong, buprenorphine or Suboxone, and those taking a placebo, that 75% of the people taking the buprenorphine were still clean. They hadn't touched opiates at the end of the study. They found in the placebo group, none of the people had remained clean, and 4 of the 20 in that group had died. So let that sink in. 75% versus 0. 100% alive versus 4 out of 20 are dead. That's a significant result. Now, to be fair, the study group was only 20 people each, so it's not the most accurate study. Really good scientific studies use a lot more, a much larger group. So, there is that. They said that it's not showing to be just a replacement for opioid use either, and that people who take this medication, it corrects a lot of the neurobiological processes that contribute to relapse. So by taking this medication, it's not just keeping you from wanting to use, it's actually fixing parts of your brain that would trigger you to relapse. So the third type of medication that this article discusses is naltrexone. They have a name brand called Vivitrol. It's often given as a shot. There's a lot of other ways to get it, but most commonly today it's given in like a monthly shot. The benefits of this is that it's a really, really safe medication. There's really no side effects, not major ones, and the studies show that you're much less likely to relapse if you're on it. The thing is that unlike methadone and buprenorphine, it doesn't fix the pathways in your brain that have been damaged. So it doesn't reduce stress hormones, but it does seem to help with cravings in a way that's helpful. So those are the three medications. And so what was their conclusion? The conclusion of this article was, and I'm going to quote it, extensive research shows that each of the three available medications used to treat opioid addiction have superior treatment outcomes to non-medication-based therapies. Increased retention reduces mortality, improves social function, and is associated with decreased drug use and improved quality of life. So essentially what this article says is that when you add in maintenance medications to a recovery program, you're more likely to succeed. So I tried to look up too, what are some misconceptions about maintenance medications? Because if all the studies are showing that maintenance medications are good for people who are in recovery, then why is there so much stigma about them? Where does that come from? So I tried to look up some of the misconceptions, and it seems that they're pretty much what you would think they would be. A lot of people think that you can get high from maintenance medications. The answer is, it depends. If you are a person who is not an opiate addict and you take one of these medications, you will 100% get high. It will trigger the response. It will make you feel high. And so what happens is there's a lot of people who have taken those medications in a recreational setting and have gotten high assume that opiate addicts who are taking them are also getting high. But that's not how they work. So if you are an opioid addict and you take these medications, they will not make you high. They just don't work that way. Again, this article that I'm getting that information from is called Medication to Treat Opioid Abuse, What Are Misconceptions About Maintenance Treatment? And that is also a .gov website. Let's see. The other thing which I'm going to quote here because I think it's a really good point. It says, these medications can help the body heal after long-term opioid use. Just as body tissues require prolonged periods to heal after injury and may require external supports, for example, a cast, crutches, or wheelchair for a broken leg, brain circuits that have been altered by prolonged drug use and substance use disorder take time to recover and benefit from external supports in the form of medication. In cases of serious and long-term opiate use disorder, a patient may need these supports indefinitely. So this article is even saying that some of these maintenance medications may be needed lifelong for people who are suffering from drug use disorder. I don't think I said, they change it all the time. So it used to be opioid use disorder, then it was like abuse, and they changed the words. But anyway, if you're a drug addict, they say, according to this article, you may need these medications for life. So, and then the one article, I'm going to say this, and I think it's important. It's an article that says medications used to treat opioid use disorder. How do medications used to treat opiate disorder work? Again, this is another .gov publication. And the one thing that I'm pulling from this article that I think is important, it says relapse can be a part of recovery for many, but unfortunately, it can also be deadly. Therefore, the use of these medications do not make a person high and can increase their chances of overall success. So, in other words, what they're saying is that taking these medications, if you're in recovery, can help you heal and help you be more successful in recovery. So, now that we know what the studies say, remember, not my opinion, just giving you facts here. So now that we know what the studies say, where's the problems? So the problems come in is, one, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think the biggest place that most opiate addicts who are on these types of medications receive some sort of kickback from is when they're at 12-step recovery programs. Now, why is that? Well, 12-step recovery programs, for the most part, preach a total abstinence model, which means that their program it has nothing to do with medications or psychology or anything else. It's based off of the 12 steps, and it's a peer-to-peer support model, right? And the program says it's successful for people who follow their program, that they're successful. Now, that can be 100% true. And the articles about maintenance medications can be true also. 12-step programs don't say anything about medications except that they're an outside issue. And people in those programs aren't necessarily doctors and neuroscientists, and, they're not the ones that have a great deal of understanding about these medications. Most of the time, their experience is based off of information they know, what they used to take to get high. So, in my opinion, when people in 12-step programs get on others for taking maintenance medications, it's just simply because they don't have an understanding of what they work, and they confuse the abstinence portion of the program with saying that people who need medications can't take them. Most 12-step programs are really clear about medications, especially for mental illness, when they say it's an outside issue and that they're not doctors, and that when you have a problem like that, you should see a doctor and follow a doctor's suggestion. That's written down in most 12-step programs. So for some reason, I think the reason that maintenance medications have gotten a bad name in 12-step programs can kind of make sense to me. So let's say somebody comes in and tells you they're taking some type of maintenance medication. Let's say 20 years ago, they're taking methadone, and they're clearly high. They're high as a kite. They're not taking it as prescribed, but they're getting high, and they're telling you they're on methadone, so they're clean. And they sit and they chair a meeting, and they're representing the program. Well, of course, people would have a problem with that, because how can you say that this program works to keep you clean if the person leading the meeting is high? That presents a problem. How do you present a clear message of recovery, saying that you can do it with this program, if the people who are leading the program are high? Right? So I can understand why that needed to be stated early on. That, look, if you're taking these meds, we have an opinion on it. In reality, most 12-step programs, if you read their literature, says that they have no opinion on outside issues. Hence, their name should never be drawn into controversy. The topic of maintenance medications causes controversy, which to me means 12-step programs automatically have no opinion. How you work your recovery program is a very personal thing. And I think that for any recovery program, I don't care what one it is, we should be about welcoming people in. We should be about helping each other stay clean and not judging people or pushing people away. Addiction is a life or death disease. People die from it all the time. We hear about overdoses all the time. I heard some statistic the other day, and don't quote me on this because I don't have stats in front of me, that something like 400 people a week die from overdoses. That's insane. So if we can work together to be more understanding and accepting of people, regardless of what type of recovery program they're working, then we can help people stay clean in this process. I don't know about you, but I would never want to be around other people who are judging me. We already have a problem with not enough people in recovery speaking out and sharing their experience, telling others what works. Not everything works for the same people. There are things that are going to help me that are not going to help you. But how do we know if we don't talk about it? How are we going to share experience? How are we going to share hope if we make people feel less than for choosing one route of recovery over another, especially if their doctor is telling them that that's what they need, that their brain is damaged, that in order to repair the damage that drugs have done to their brain, that they need to take these medications? Shouldn't they still be able to come into a program and share about where they're at and celebrate the fact that they're not using drugs anymore? Now, I'm sorry, this is a thing that gets me very passionate because I feel like we want to say that we don't judge other people in recovery, that we don't look down on other people in recovery. But I have seen it with maintenance medications. I have seen people who have had a lot of clean time look down on people who take these types of medications. So you know what you find? You find that people who take these medications don't talk about it. They don't share about their experiences. If they decide to taper off and do recovery without those medications, they have no support. They can't talk to somebody. Tapering off those medications is difficult, just as tapering off any sort of psych medication can be difficult. We want to offer these people support. We want to let them know they're not alone. How can we do that if we have convinced them that they need to keep it a secret? So I was very surprised because I really thought that there would be more cons to maintenance medication. I actually had some of my own opinions on certain types of maintenance medication, and my mind was changed in certain areas. I couldn't believe that all the information I read was telling me that this was a life-saving option for people. I couldn't find any peer-reviewed articles. I couldn't find any legitimate sourced information that gave me negatives for these medications. Now, please, if you find some, send it to me. I'm always open to learning, and I'm always willing to admit that maybe I missed something. But it was easy to find articles about why they're beneficial. I think that a lot of misinformation has been spread, and the other big problem I think we have are shady doctors. Look, just as you could have gotten pain medications from shady doctors by paying out of your pocket and getting a hefty script, I've seen the same thing be done with Suboxone. You need a special license to prescribe it, and doctors are only allowed to have so many patients who take it. I've seen doctors allow people to come in if you pay $350 for your appointment each month. You should not be allowed to charge somebody $350 for an appointment so that they can get a prescription medication that could potentially be life-saving. But we don't hear about that. That should be an outrage. When they upped the price of EpiPens, people went nuts. So why aren't we calling out doctors for doing that? Suboxone doctors should be covered by insurance, and most of them are. Believe it or not, some states have that as being illegal. I know New Jersey is not one of them. I know there's a lot of states that doctors will charge $350 plus to write a prescription for a medication that someone needs. I know there's other states where that's completely illegal. Do you know that there are people who go out and train doctors so that they can prescribe medications like Suboxone and help addicts' lives? And then when those doctors get certified, they stop taking Medicaid and they become a cash pay office because it's a whole lot more money. So this is an issue that I think we need to talk about without judging other people. Remember, recovery is about saving lives. And look, if you don't believe in maintenance medications, if you don't think that a person's clean if they're taking them, nobody says you have to. Nobody's going to judge you for not taking them. I just think we need to be more compassionate to people. I don't want someone to be suffering alone at home because they're afraid to let them know that they're taking Suboxone or Vivitrol or any of those medications. It's not my job to judge your recovery. We need to start lifting each other up. We need to support people who are doing something that's working for them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It definitely came out a little different than I was originally planning. As I said, I thought I'd have more back and forth information, and I was super surprised when I didn't. I would love to hear your opinions. Like, please share down below. Tell me what your thoughts are. Did you learn anything new? Is there something further you'd want to talk about on this topic? Let me know how you feel. You know, do you know somebody who takes these medications who feels judged? I just want to be able to, you know, We got to grow as a community. We got to educate each other. We've got to learn from each other. I hope you guys all have an awesome weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Talk to you soon.